Cutting your sales cycle in half sounds pretty impossible, right? But that's exactly what Sandler Trading did with HubSpot. They used Breeze, HubSpot's AI tools, to tailor every customer interaction without losing their personal touch. And the results were pretty incredible. Click-through rates jumped 25%, qualified leads quadrupled, and people spent 3 times longer on their landing pages. You can go to HubSpot.com to see how Breeze can help your business grow. Good morning, everybody. Today's Tuesday, June 3rd. I'm John Weigell here with Mark Dent, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Big brands that used to go all out with rainbow logos and pride merchandise are staying quiet this year. As you can imagine, it's got everything to do with politics and some corporate fear as well. Let's break down what's really going on behind the scenes with companies like Target, Bud Light, Gap, Nordstrom, and more. We'll get into all that in a bit, but first let's give it the big hits and headlines in business and tech. Starting us off today, we got a new Fortune 500, but not a new champion. Walmart once again topped the list for the 13th straight year. Runner-up Amazon did close the revenue gap between the two, and now they're only $43 billion behind. So, Mark, Walmart once again with a dominant year.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that shopping in person at these big retailers is still by far the most popular way to get your shopping done. You know, everybody likes to talk about e-commerce. Amazon has been a huge deal. I mean, it's right behind Walmart, so it's not like they're struggling. But one of my favorite stats to always bring up is in early 2020, just before the pandemic, 12% of all commerce, all retail sales was done online. If you fast forward a few years, it has gone up a little bit, but it's still right around 15%.
Wow.
So the vast majority of retail still comes in person, and that number hasn't gone up as much as people thought it would in this post-pandemic era.
Yeah, people like to do a lot of in-person shopping around the United States, and Walmart, they're kind of playing both sides here. They probably have the biggest in-person shopping presence out of any retailer in the US, but also they're bulking up their e-commerce, and also last week, like we talked about, Mark, they might be putting in gas stations to Walmart, so more excuses to go visit your local Walmart coming soon.
Totally. Yeah, I think they're second to Amazon when it comes to the online shopping experience, the amount of stuff you can buy and how easily you can get it.
Yeah, they're no slouch in that regard either. Yeah. Next up here, there's another brain implant company out there. Paradromics, a competitor to Neuralink, has just successfully implanted its brain-computer interface in a human for the first time. Paradromics is planning for clinical trials later this year if approved. The goal for now, though, is to help patients with severe motor impairments. Next up, we go to Newark Airport. We all know that Newark Airport has been having a lot of runway issues lately. United Airlines is trying to remedy these problems the only way that might actually work for them, which is to lower prices. The airline CEO told Wall Street Journal on ticket prices that this is, quote, going to be the cheapest it's probably ever going to be in history, end quote. The new runway at Newark causing some of these issues is also finally ready for takeoffs. It was rushed 13 days before it was actually set to be completed. It was completed. So, Mark, a lot of information here on Newark International Airport. What do you make of all of it?
Well, I'm all for inexpensive airline tickets, and air travel has gotten way more expensive. It's outpaced inflation, in a lot of ways, since 2021. However, I'm not sure I like the idea of this discount where it's, hey, we'll make this cheaper than ever. Just please come to our airport that you may not be sure about how safe it is.
Right. You're definitely risking something by coming here, but don't worry, you will for a deal, which surprisingly, even given that logic, I think it is a smart move to lower the prices because that's probably the only thing that will get me to go to Newark Airport at this point. If the ticket's half the price of JFK, listen, I'll go to Newark.
Yeah.
Sit in a delay for 2 hours on the runway.
And I guess the other scary thing is that if you push up demand, are there enough air traffic controllers yet at this point? I mean, according to courts, those issues still exist.
Oh, yeah.
They haven't necessarily fixed all of the air traffic controller issues. So it's like, do you really want to increase the demand of flights there without increasing the supply of air traffic controllers? I don't know.
That's a good thing to note too. I do appreciate that if the service quality is dropping, so is the price. That doesn't happen often. So that's at least, I guess, nice to see. But yeah, you do bring up a valid concern with the air traffic controllers. There aren't enough of them, and I don't think it's been enough time for them to hire more. So yeah, that is a glaring problem here.
Yeah, I mean, if I travel to New York this summer, then I think I'm still going to look at LaGuardia or JFK first. But we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see, right? Maybe they'll get their act together. And finally here, starting yesterday, Chipotle just kicked off a deal that will make it very hard to achieve that summer body you've been looking for. The company is going to give away over $1 million in free burritos ending August 31st, and that translates to about 10,000 burritos a week to specifically only its rewards members. So if you're a rewards member, you might have a free burrito in your future. Okay, look. Side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes. And you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link. You don't want to sleep on this. Okay, on to our main story today. We're talking about Pride this year. Obviously, you know, June 1st has already happened, and this month is Pride Month. Many companies go all out for Pride every year, and this year is looking a bit different so far. So, Mark, what's going on this year compared to last year?
So a lot of companies are either dialing back some of the products or displays or whatever they previously had to celebrate Pride Month, or they're keeping similar sort of displays and products, but being really quiet about it and not really sharing that they're doing any of it. In fact, according to CNN, there was a survey from Gravity Research which suggested that roughly 39% out of 200 corporate executives surveyed said that they're going to scale back what they had been doing for Pride Month in the past.
Yeah, and I guess that brings us to the big question of why would they do this? Usually companies, actually sometimes too much every year, are pushing Pride merchandise. H&M is a big proponent, Kohl's, a lot of retail brands, Target as well, Bud Light in the past. So why have they decided that now is the time to pull back? Obviously, it has to be a bit politically charged.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest reasons from this survey was because of the Trump administration, which has been either investigating or threatening to investigate different businesses over DEI practices.
Sure.
And having something like a very visible Pride Month type of display, they fear is going to attract more attention from the Trump administration. And, you know, also, even before, you know, Trump was reelected last fall, you saw corporations like Target starting to dial back or be much less visible with some of their Pride Month displays.
Yeah.
That goes back to 2023 when they faced a conservative boycott over Pride Month, more or less.
Yeah, all these companies becoming a little more subdued. It seems like the thing to do now for a lot of the big companies is to not be so loud about it, but do a bit of it on the back end, up in on Pride merch for e-commerce, rather than putting it in stores and keeping your store selection kind of minimal and not exactly as clad with banners as, for example, Target's Pickleball Month was earlier this year in the store. So it seems like they're kind of keeping it on the down low in a lot of spaces.
Yeah, and it's, of course, not just Target, you know, that's doing this. I mean, according to CNN, Nordstrom and Gap, Kohl's are among others that have, like I said, either sort of withdrawn some of the products that they once had or been more quiet about it. You know, there are also corporations who used to pay like sponsorships for gay pride parades in large cities.
Right.
And according to the Washington Post, some of those sponsorships are decreasing for this year. Mm-hmm. And so that's another way that you're seeing some changes here. But, you know, what it comes down to is corporations are in this very weird spot because over the last several years, they did start to become more political in some ways. And then, things like Pride Month, which maybe weren't all that political, have now become political.
Right.
So put those two things together, and corporations kind of feel like they have to go back to this neutrality that they maybe once had. And it's not sitting well for people who see them as political entities.
True.
That's why Target, they faced that conservative boycott 2 years ago. Right. Well, over the last 2 months or so, they've faced a liberal boycott.
Yeah.
Because they've been dialing back on DEI.
Yeah. Right. There's always an idea that these big companies have to kind of choose a side. And if you don't say anything, it's just as bad as picking one side or the other side. So yeah, there is kind of this weird situation here where they have to make a decision and they can't really go 50% on a decision that they make, and they have to kind of go fully into it. But you mentioned boycotts. Now a lot of these companies are thinking, well, if I do say something or I do have some sort of Pride merchandise out and about, then I can expect boycotts. And these companies are actually preparing themselves internally for boycotts this month and for the summer.
Yeah. And these boycotts, they do work, or at least in a few instances, they certainly have. When Bud Light faced the conservative boycott 2 years ago, it fell from being the number one beer in the country, from its perch at the top.
Yeah. Right.
Depending on what stats you looked at, sales in the month after that boycott started fell somewhere between 11 to 25%. The stock for its parent company, AB InBev, plummeted by 20%. And I think the Target boycott 2 years ago, the numbers weren't quite as clear. But if you look at the recent boycott over Target kind of eschewing its DEI practices, in the most recent quarter, Target was off around $500 million on sales expectations by analysts. So, these do move the needle.
Yeah. And they're all really, when it comes down to it now, trying to play it safe this month, it looks like.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see what happens. But this is just, a new era for a lot of retailers, a lot of corporations, as they have very difficult decisions to make. And they're probably going to find that there's actually not a good choice for them.
Yeah. Not this year, at least. All right, that's going to do it for us today then. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go sign up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey everybody, I've been listening to this great podcast lately. You got to check it out. It's called Content is Profit. It's hosted by Luis and Fonzie Camejo, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So in this podcast, you can discover the secrets and strategies on how your business can achieve the frictionless sale. We talk about frameworks, strategies, tactics, and bring special guests to bring you all the information you need in order to turn your content into profit. Recently, they did a whole episode on micro creators and UGC and how those things are transforming the social media industry, especially for profit. They had a guest on, William Gassner, who is the co-founder of Stack Influence. So definitely check that episode out if you want to learn more about the social media landscape as it is currently. You can listen to Content as Profit wherever you get your podcasts.